We'll resume the county budget meeting for fiscal year 1920. And tonight is all about public participation. Commissioner Bernard, you have a comment?
Well, first, I just want to thank people for coming. In case you leave right after your testimony, most years we have nobody. So we really do appreciate you coming. I just want to thank you. Because I
Thank you, sir.
complain about it every year.
Complain when they're here or when they're not here?
They're not.
Oh, very good. Okay, just clarify that. So thank you. Yes. It shows that folks are.
Night meetings work.
Shows that folks are interested in what's going on in their county. So we are going to start with, and we have a lot of cards this evening, so you will each be limited to 2 minutes each to speak to us. So, and we'd prefer you, if you have 2 or 3 people speaking, you not talk about the same thing. You find different pieces within that topic to bring to our attention. And we do have a timer over here. So we're asking that you pay attention to that little signals that you might get. So first person I'd like to call to the podium, and you can come right up here and speak. And when there's 2 or 3 of you, you'll come up in a group. So first, though, is Marge Stewart. And as Marge is making her way up here, there she is. I do want to let her know and let you know that we received several letters, including one from yourself regarding code compliance. And so they are all part of the official record for this evening, Marge.
Right.
So when you sit down, ladies and gentlemen, I'll say this for all of you, would you please give your name and address, and then if you care to, say just immediately list the topic that you're speaking to tonight, and then we will start timing you. Thank
And
you.
you'll probably have to pull the microphone close.
Yes,
so
close.
the
Thank
audience
you
can
very
hear
much,
and
Tom.
then
The
the
light
people
needs to be
watching.
on.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
green
the
light
light's
needs
on.
To be
yeah.
on.
All right.
Okay. Yes, I don't need to speak long. I'm Marge Stewart. I live on Wildcat Mountain Drive, 49025, Sandy address. And yes, I think most of you've gotten our letters concerning code compliance. Just want to reiterate, that the employment's gone down while the population's gone up. And this is not to deride anybody that's already in the job. They just don't have enough of them to make it a doable job. And again, you don't need to repeat what we've got in the letters, but I think you've heard from several CPOs.
Yes, we did. Thank you. And some photographs that were extremely
Yes.
helpful in pointing out the issues.
And those weren't the worst
So,
ones.
Yeah.
We cleaned
I
up
heard
one of
that.
the worst ones.
Saw that, right. So thank you very much.
that-
And yes,
that's it.
all the letters are now, all the letters and anything that you turn in a document this evening is part of the official record for
Right.
this evening.
Yeah, just say we are here and care about what's going on.
Very
And
good.
again, that's not to do anybody else bad, but more code compliance might be less gangs of police cars raiding places.
Could all work together. Thank
Yeah.
you very much, Marge.
Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
So Marge, were you going to read? Because not all of us have seen your
I
letter.
sent
so-
it right to
Yeah, we
you.
all have them. We were given them on Tuesday morning.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, I sent it a few weeks ago to you.
Yeah, we do have
Forget you,
them.
Gary.
I mean, I'm with Paul. I didn't see it. So I don't know why.
Okay, well, go ahead and then,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Oh, I'm
that's-
sorry, I didn't bring a copy with me, but
We
should have,
all
yeah,
have it.
okay. We're talking about how we don't have enough people following up on things going bad in so many different code compliance subjects, which you take a while to read the whole page. But we're experiencing more and more problems with squatters. And some of that can be handled by the livability group, too. There's a mixture of that and just plain breaking the rules. Some people need to be arrested, some people need to be helped. So it's a mixture. In our letter, we talked about some of the squatters and the garbage. The one place where we picked up 8 dumpsters full of stuff. That didn't count the cars and the scrap metal and the tires. And it's still not a wonderful piece of property anymore. It used to be a very nice place. And the neighbor next door who finally got Channel 8 to put it on the news, took over and domesticated 83 cats, got them neutered and found them homes.
Did see that,
So yeah, those kind of things are going on.
yeah.
And so,
All right.
is that
Thank
going to
you.
tell you?
Wilda? So sometimes we have a little dialogue. So I'd like a little dialogue.
Sure.
So we need to probably reconvene, perhaps in the next budget year, a community discussion about code enforcement, because code enforcement either goes one way or the other. It's like bounce back and forth. One year, people want a lot of code enforcement. The next year, they don't want code enforcement. So that's a discussion we probably ought to have. And maybe that group can talk about what do we want to prioritize again, because we do have priorities in our code enforcement. What is it exactly we want to do? Homelessness, houselessness, all those things have caused increased problems and also a lot of expense. I mean, you said 8
Yeah.
dumpster loads. And those are very expensive and hard to get the money back on. So that is, I'd like to see that we perhaps consider doing that
Absolutely.
in the next year or from this budget cycle on.
Right.
Okay.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you for those comments, and I'm not sure whether it was Commissioner Humberson or Savas, but you guys can duke that out.
Yeah,
Paul, would
I'll
you
duke it
like
out.
to-
Yeah, so I just want to just remind maybe Commissioner Bernard that, and others, that we got some marijuana money, and part of that money was going to go towards code enforcement for those kinds of issues, including a vehicle, an extra vehicle, a person, an FTE. But I don't think it's a matter of, in my sense of all this, and looking at the budget today or yesterday from DTD, they're barely funded. So I don't think it takes action in the community. It takes action from us to actually fund more. If we want more, we need to fund more, but they're maxed out. So it's just a matter of more money.
I wasn't saying that. I was saying that some years people want more code enforcement. Some years they want less. I mean, we had a big meeting. Everyone said, let's do more code enforcement. So we jacked it up and then we got a lot of pushback and we brought it back down. And so we need to maybe have that discussion again. It's been a number of years since we had that large community discussion about code enforcement.
Commissioner Humberson?
Well, one aspect of it that has always kind of bugged me, and maybe this could be part of the future discussion, is that it's always been a reactive approach on our part. In other words, somebody has to call in and complain, and it's a whole process. And yet, you can drive down the road and you can see something, and yet our staff are not able to actually say, wait a minute, I see a violation with my own eyes, and I can't do anything about that because of our policy. So we need to, I think staff should have the ability, if they're driving down the road, they see something that clearly, without even having to go on a piece of property, is a code violation. Why can't they actually act on that, rather than just, it has to be a complaint all the time? So that's, I just say that ought to be a discussion we have. There may be good reasons for the way it is, and I'm sure there probably are some, but we ought to have that discussion. So
Sounds reasonable.
It's back to capacity.
I understand that.
Very good.
So can we parking lot that?
Good point. Do you have other comments to
Well,
make,
just
Commissioner
that,
Fisher?
when I became a commissioner and this was an issue, I had floated around the idea of asking the legislature to create a private right of action for code enforcement, like a timber trespass, where the damages and the payment for that would be done by the violation. But I didn't pursue the idea because it could be used for abuse as well. It could just become a weapon, so to say. But having a conversation about it, it could be beyond us. There might be solutions. So hearing where the issues are, I think are definitely worth us convening about that.
Commissioner Fisher raises a good point. It actually has been used as a weapon. And it was actually, sometimes they were actually just personal disputes between neighbors and had nothing to do with any code violation. So that's exactly why we had to change it. And Martha, if anyone's got a great, well, Jim and I and Martha have been through the rigors of that several times. So
I just want to say that code,
We're never going to get out of here tonight, I know.
code enforcement's kind of like dog control. It always loops back.
Yep.
And we've been working on it since 2003, and Jim's correct. Sometimes people want more, sometimes people want less, and we will figure it out. And if it takes another convening, it'll probably be my 15th out of 16 years, but I will be there with bells on, and we will continue to try and do the best service we can for our constituents
we all need to help.
with this. Okay. But yeah, I was just like, oh, it's code enforcement.
And I'm sorry, I said code compliance. I meant code enforcement. Yes. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Marge, very much. Appreciate it.
That was an 11-minute, 2-minute. That's pretty good.
Well, do keep in mind that when we begin to ask questions, the clock stops for the people that are speaking. So I just want to be sure that we're all cognizant of that. Thank you very much. We now have two folks representing NAMI. We have Michelle Vinker and Michael Wall. Would you come on up to the table? And same drill, name, address, briefly what you're here for, and then tell us about what the issue is. So thank you.
Yes, my name is Michael Wall, and I live at 4209 Southeast Ridgely Avenue, Milwaukee, Oregon. And I'm here about the county budget. Dear Budget Committee Chair Wilcox and Budget Committee Board Chairperson Bernard and Commissioners Fisher, Humbertson, Savis, and Schrader, thank you for the opportunity to testify on the county budget. In April 2018, I experienced my first psychotic break. I was diagnosed and treated at the Kaiser Brookside Psychiatric Inpatient Unit for schizophrenia. I learned of NAMI for the first time when I was a patient there. After I was discharged, my case manager at Kaiser connected me with my local NAMI Clackamas. The peer support specialist at NAMI Clackamas connected me with 2 support groups, a rent-well housing group, and a meditation class. In September, a different peer support specialist at NAMI connected me with the training at Mental Health and Addiction Association of Oregon to become a peer wellness specialist. In December of last year, I was hired by Cascadia Behavioral Health as a peer wellness specialist, where I now work with adults who also live with severe and persistent mental illnesses. Since July of last year, I have worked as a volunteer at NAMI Clackamas. I continue to volunteer because it feels good to give back after all that NAMI Clackamas has done for me. I'm not here today to ask you for support to support specific programs, but I'm here to ask you to support all mental health services to the greatest extent possible. These services include housing, supported and treatment facilities. It includes supporting peer services in our county to make sure they are available to anyone who wants and needs them. It means decriminalizing mental health and addictions, but also funding the jail so that those who live with these issues and land in our jail get appropriate help and treatment while there and upon reentry into our community. It means funding our safety net services like our crisis center, clinics, and behavioral health units so that they may serve everyone in Clackamas County and not just those who have the Oregon Health Plan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
you.
Michelle?
So trying to keep this at 2 minutes is going to be really hard for me, as you guys know. My name is Michelle Vinker, 10202 Southeast 32nd Avenue, Suite 501, Milwaukee, Oregon. And again, I want to thank Budget Committee Chair Wilcox, Commissioner Chair Bernard, and all the Budget Committee and County Commissioners for the time you're taking tonight to hear from our community. My name is Michelle Vinker, and I'm the Executive Director of the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Clackamas County, and the mother of a beautiful, compassionate daughter who lives with mental health issues, epilepsy, and multiple sclerosis. Of those 3, the mental health issues have negatively impacted her life the most. Even with my years of volunteering and working with NAMI and the schedule that is flexible enough to allow me to attend meetings and advocate for my daughter, I am still finding it difficult to navigate our system and find the programs, housing, and other resources she needs to keep safe, housed, and allowed to have the hope, health, acceptance, and community she deserves as a resident of our county. There are over 65,000 adults and 13,000 youth who live with a diagnosable mental health issue in Clackamas County in any given year. An overwhelmingly disproportionate number are living in poverty, have poor physical health, and are victims of crime, stigma, and discrimination. They experience extremely high rates of physical and sexual victimization. Suicide rates in Clackamas County exceed those of our neighboring metro communities, and it is the number 2 killer of our children. Suicide kills more people than homicide, breast cancer, and HIV/AIDS combined. Local emergency departments and jails are too often the only option that our citizens have when they experience a mental health crisis. Despite all of this, we know that recovery happens and can be expected if people are able to get an early diagnosis and access the right combination of resources and treatment. With that in mind, I'm sitting before you not to ask a specific funding for my organization or others, but rather to prioritize mental health, its related resources when you're deciding on the budget. You'll see most of those in there, but I want to just touch on a couple of them. Housing is the #1 unmet need that we see. Housing across the board, low and no income, supported, supportive. Too many people are at risk of housing or unable to get housing because of their mental health systems. People with especially complicated symptoms often face unsurmountable barriers to appropriate housing. NAMI Clackamas sees the greatest need for mental health housing that includes services provided on-site and residential treatment homes. We also need funding for substance use treatment. Too many people with mental health issues also live with a substance use disorder when they try to self-medicate. We hear a lot about the opiate epidemic, but we also need to pay attention to some of the other the substances people are using and abusing. Across the country, overdose deaths involving methamphetamine more than quadrupled from 2011 to 2017. In Oregon, 232 people died from meth use in 2016, nearly twice as many as that from heroin. When a person is ready for treatment, it can take 6 weeks or more showing up until they get a bed. Too many, including my son, relapsed before they got in. And if that's the lucky ones, those that have the Oregon Health Plan. With private insurance or Medicare, it becomes even harder, if not possible, to get those services. So in the interest of time, I am going to ask you to read the rest of the testimony that touches on jails and judicial systems, that touches on our clinics and other things. But I want to take this opportunity to thank you for listening to my testimony and to help allow us to provide a local perspective that is important in the conversation about county spending. We are grateful to you and your ongoing support of the people who live with mental health concerns in our county and those of us who love them. We realize the budget is tight. We are asking you to make the hard decisions that ensure that funding and resources are available for mental health and the services people in our county deserve. We look forward to continuing to work with you towards the shared goal of empowering our citizens and creating a healthy, safe, and sustainable communities in our county. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you both. Thank you. No comments? Thank you. Next up is Joe O'Leary. Joe wants to speak to us tonight about the juvenile department budget.
Commissioners, members of the Budget Committee, good evening. I'm Joe O'Leary. I'm the director of the Oregon Youth Authority, the state juvenile justice agency, and I'm here in support of the budget for the Clackamas County Juvenile Department. The Clackamas County Juvenile Department has had a long history of collaboration and support with the Oregon Youth Authority. It's been a successful collaboration, and I'm thrilled to be here to support their budget ask. Whatever it is, I hope you give it to them, and then some more. We know that research, we know from research that kids that progress deeper into the juvenile justice system tend to recidivate more often, tend to have worse outcomes than kids who don't. So providing sufficient funding up front makes sense. It makes sense for good outcomes for kids and for public safety. I'm also thrilled that Clackamas County Juvenile Department has been a great partner to OYA in being an early adopter of some of our predictive analytics tools that we have developed in partnership with the Oregon Juvenile Justice Directors Association. And they've also been a great collaborator in 2 projects with the Georgetown Juvenile Justice Reform Clinic, one around crossover kids and another around evidence-based decision-making. And then finally, the County Juvenile Department has been a great partner to OYA's field office here in Clackamas County, allowing our staff to actually cross-train with their staff, and we really appreciate that. So that really concludes my remarks. I'm just here to support them, and thank you for the opportunity to chime in.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Next up, we have a trio of speakers that would like to talk to us about the Youth Careers Initiative. Laura Edmonds, Eric Johnston, and Bridget Daisy. Good evening.
Good evening. I'll start. My name is Bridget Daisy, Executive Director of Clackamas Workforce Partnership. Thank you, members of the Budget Committee, Budget Committee Chair Parks, and Commissioner or Chair Bernard. We did submit a proposal to fund our Clackamas Connect to Careers initiative. In essence, this is an opportunity to combine all of the work that our K-14 partners are doing with our youth in our community and connecting them with opportunities with businesses and employers in the area so that youth can truly identify what their potential is and explore careers and opportunities that exist for them in the community. I cannot stress our sense of urgency enough to fund this program. With every passing day, with every passing year, our economy is fractured and challenged with full employment, and a lot of folks that are floundering with a sense of hopelessness and what does a career mean for them. This program would create a connective tissue between our business community and our youth programs so that youth would have opportunities for internships, teachers have externships, programs for on-site work experiences, tours, teacher opportunity or classroom opportunities for business expertise to come into the classroom. There's a whole array of need that our business community is hungry to support, but we need a collective balance to that. In lieu of that, there are 10 school districts, 1 community college, and several youth programs that businesses have to navigate on their own without having a collaborative. So Clackamas Connect to Careers is an attempt to pull all of that together so youth have opportunity for potential. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Eric Johnston, and I'm the executive director of a nonprofit in rural Clackamas County called Todos Juntos. We're part of the PreventNet program. And for years, I used to be a blue-collar worker. And for years, when I was in the trenches over at the middle schools that I worked at, I worked with kids on trying to identify how to use a hammer. These kids were referred to me from counselors that just they needed role modeling in such a way. And I was able to provide that, but on a very limited scale. So I taught children how to use a tape measure, how to read a tape measure because they didn't know how to do it. You can go through a box of nails trying to get them to pound a nail in straight without bending it. So we did it the old-fashioned way. We took measurements of shells for teachers and whatnot and built the shells custom-made for this particular teacher. But over the years, it was just harder and harder and harder and harder to identify somebody that could go into the schools. I saw firsthand that these kids were suffering or struggling to identify hope for their future because blue-collar work was just gone. Years ago, it was gone. And children today are just too busy doing this. And so I would love to see the trades come back into, the salt of the earth kind of work for our society. And I'm part of the Clackamas Workforce Board. And through them, I see a great opportunity to bring a lot of their resource to the schools and to enhance what we're doing at the schools to give a larger sense of hope to all children, be it blue-collar work or white-collar work or whatever it is. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Great.
Ms. Edmonds?
Thank you. Laura Edmonds, North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce, 8305 Southeast Monterey Avenue, Suite 104 in Happy Valley. Well, it's actually Clackamas, but based on a postal code. I'm here representing the business constituents for Bridget and Workforce Investment Partners. The Connect to Careers Youth Program is, we strongly support it because its focus is to increase that training and educational opportunities. Our role as a chamber is to support the development of future-ready workforce for our business community. And right now, it's becoming more complex with each passing year, as you already know. There's employers who are having difficulty finding qualified, trained workers for any industry. And so with this type of program, we are confident that it's actually going to, as they reach down into the junior high and high school levels, They're going to be able to capture these students early on, be able to identify opportunity for them, those that aren't going to be going to university, that they have opportunities before them. As I listen to others in the room and some of the complex issues you guys are facing, we're facing as a society, and I'm going to deviate, because when I look at that, these kinds of programs, the youth are going to be, it's going to capture the youth early before they get into the system. And if we look at it overall, it's preventative care now, it's preventative training, education, job skills training they need to be able to be effective members of society and giving back. And if they aren't taught this early on, they're going to be in the system. You're going to hear about them later when we're sitting at a next budget meeting. So the investment now is critical for us to be able to capture the youth and get them ready for the workforce. And then our businesses aren't going to be struggling for their workforce in next year or 5 years from now. So we appreciate the consideration. We ask again for you guys to consider investing in the Connect to Careers Youth Network Program, and we appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Commissioner Bernard.
So was there a budget request?
Yes.
I haven't seen one.
Yes, we sent a proposal, $300,000 for the biennium.
Okay. So one thing that we're talking about, for example, at our Water Environmental Services, is getting youth to get involved in some of the things we do at the county, so that there is some enthusiasm about working in certain fields. And some of that, I think we're just starting to talk about it, is getting into the schools and inviting those kids out to where we provide those services to get them excited, because we're struggling to find people too. The other thing is that the unions who are also looking for electricians, plumbers, and people can find the right end of a hammer, to get into their industries. So that's another area I think that we could reach out,
Construction.
find some support.
We want to do all of those things, and we have strong partnerships with the business community, the trades, and public partners to bring this all together. Whether funded or not, we are moving forward with this initiative. We don't have the funds currently to support this, and to make it successful, this budget request would really be helpful.
Thank you.
Mr. Feely, and then Commissioner Schrader.
I just wanted to thank you for your comments and the importance, especially of positive role models for children in schools. On Tuesday and Wednesday mornings, my alter ego is Mr. Tom, and I work with 2nd through 5th graders, and it's just so critically important that we get adults in the school, just somebody to listen to them. There's so many kids that are troubled and have other issues, so I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Bridget. I served with Bridget on the Workforce Council, Clackamas Workforce Partnership, and I've been aware of it. I think this was a proposal that was sent through H3S. I'm not, because I know that,
I think so.
well, I know that we've talked about it. So, yeah, Gary, what department did it go through?
Actually, the request came to you commissioners via email a week or two ago for $300,000. I know that Bridget has spoken to many, if not all of you, about this request. And I told her this: I did not put it in my proposed budget because of the budget situation we're facing this year, and that most, if not all, departments are reducing their budgets, and I simply couldn't find a place in the budget. But I invited her to come tonight to speak to you directly, but it is not in my proposed budget. So if you choose to change that, that would be your decision.
And I think that's the issue that we're dealing with, is that we have a workforce component, but I think it is under the umbrella of H3S at this point. And it's usually largely the demographic that the county normally works with is extremely barriered folks who, and we're talking here as a drop down for youth development to get them motivated and started sooner than later. So I do encourage you folks to come forward and at least put this before the commission, because I think that workforce is a critical component. I'm not convinced, as our administrator said, that this year we have the bandwidth, because we're looking at the years ahead with us, trying to pull together a sustainable budget. That doesn't mean that that can't change. You know, we hope, I hope so. I guess my question to you is, I've been aware that, of course, it's been quite a few dollars I think the legislature is dedicating to our school systems. Has there been conversations with our superintendents about those dollars right now being used to really augment throughout our county? And I think we have 10 districts. How many districts do we have? I think we have at least 10.
10.
Yeah. We talked to our superintendents about what that might mean in terms of
Yes.
where those dollars might feed into something like this.
Yes, the $1 billion that went through the legislature, that passed the legislature, is going to be huge for our school systems. And the focus to keep those dollars within the district to focus on career technical education, dropout prevention, and ensure that individuals are graduating. We would like to keep as much of those dollars at the school as possible. Absolutely, there are conversations with them about how they feed into the program. We do plan to have this program be self-sufficient with business community investment. This would be seed funding to really get it started, because in lieu of having that $1 billion now and really knowing what it's supposed to be allocated for, or how they're going to manage that, there's a need now to create this system and the infrastructure. And so that's what we're hoping we can do with county investment, because there is a sense of urgency.
Okay, another suggestion I might make is this. There are a number of nonprofits in our community that are working with youth, that are working with families, that are working with it. And they have talked about a larger collaborative conversation about, I think I've heard the word children's levy bandied about. I don't know where we are, but I think that there's an opportunity to convene with everybody who's doing anything that has to deal with youth. We have groups that deal, the Children's Center deals with kids who have been sexually abused and assaulted. We have a very strong domestic violence program at the Family Justice Center. We have folks, I see some of them here tonight, who work with children of incarcerated parents. There's Parrot Creek. There's a whole group of folks that I think it would be worthwhile to really be part of that larger collaborative, because it's a continuum and each area is really contributing to the larger capacity. So that's just at least I hope, is a ray of hope, and I will tell you, yes, I did encourage you to come forward, because I think that this is a conversation that I think all of us as leaders in our community should be aware of, whether or not we are successful at this point in time in getting dollars. I still think it's important to get it out there.
I appreciate your recommendation.
Yeah, and I actually appreciate working with all of you, because I've seen how the organization has grown, and I see the good work that you're doing with workers across in fact, I just sent you information about job opportunities, I think, in Canby, so I know you're on that with our economic development team.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader.
Okay.
And Commissioner Humberston?
I'm a graduate apprentice and journeyman, and the organization that I worked for actually trained me. So I'm going to lead off with that, because I'm asking this question. Are companies doing the training? They say they want trained employees, but my question is, are they training employees? Be my first question. And related to that is, have you talked to the companies and the unions about contributing to this program that you want to do?
Yes,
And are they contributing?
We're in the infancy of implementation. So we are launching this year with internships for summer and work experiences. And then next year, we'll be fleshing out what the calendar looks like for tours and other opportunities with union shops or trades and other businesses. Businesses are eager to plug into this system and to participate. Are they willing to fund it? Yes, many are. And I think that with some momentum, we can really build something that more businesses can plug into. Are they currently funding training now? Some more than others, and I think that again, in full employment during this, we have record low unemployment right now, that they're changing their policies, their procedures, their culture, in order to attract more people into their industries and into their companies. So I think everything's on the table. We have programs through our workforce system to assist with some of that training, on-the-job training, work experiences. Our adult system is very robust. Stronger partnership with our K-12 partners will mean that we have a stronger continuum for all of those programs. And I also can't stress enough the importance of after-school programs and summer programs for youth, because during those periods of time when they're trying to struggle with things to do, there's a unique opportunity for the business and adults in our community to get involved with those youth.
But in answer to the question, you don't have them contributing to this current proposal at this point in time?
There is a charge for each internship of $3,500 that will cover the youth's wages, and then there are dollars that go over that 200 hours of internship that would help fund a portion of the initiative. And so it will be through mass of people utilizing the system, and then also getting the word out to other businesses that there are other ways to contribute, because we're a nonprofit and that would be a tax-deductible donation. But all of that is happening. We have a staff of 8, and so we are working with with partners and other community members, and businesses have already signed on, and that is in the proposal, that there are sizable businesses that are ready to engage with this and will commit.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I just want to say, well, I know that you and I met, and I'm not sure how many of the commissioners I thought you were going to make a visit to each of our commissioners. So what I did want to say is that there was, there's overlap in what the school districts want to do with after-school funding, and I know that's a certain age group, and I know the age group you primarily want to help, especially with employers, is probably what age group? I know ideally it's 18 and up, but how young do you go?
Our current federal funding funds us, or we can start working with youth as young as 14 with career readiness and work readiness. But they're very restrictive from the Department of Labor, and frankly, since 2000, we've seen a 50% cut in our funding from our federal partners. We do have. I lost my train of thought. Oh, we need to go earlier. We need to talk about career exploration and opportunities earlier. So with local investment, we could go as young as 5th, 6th grade, or even younger, again, creating opportunities for exploration. So we are not restricted outside of our funding to go as young as possible to talk about what does inquiry mean, and STEM and STEAM related skill sets, and how to build all of those 21st century skills that we need in our economy.
Right. I did want to say, in the past, I've gone to some workforce development meetings. Martha's primarily the person who's gone. There's other regional groups that have done that, done a little bit of that, but I will say from the private sector, to Commissioner Humberson's question, the private sector's, and myself included when I was an employer, we're always looking for youth that could make the commitment. And I, out of my own pocket, I trained youth that I knew would that would be there and had the availability to actually put in the hours at the right time of the day and so forth. So typically for my industry, it was the requirements for heavy equipment or light equipment was like 18 and older from an insurance standpoint. So a number of employers that I've talked to since being a commissioner have expressed similar things, but I do know that there are opportunities for youth that are younger just for entry-level opportunities. So if that helps.
Yeah, I would like to respond to your question as well, that with the work that we do at the middle school level, we're at 4 middle schools and 1 high school. Through the Clackamas workforce, they introduced us to an organization called Oregon Ask. And through that organization, we're collectively developing a service to career delivery at the schools. And we've been successful at going out and finding foundational funds that have jump-started these in the school, so we are currently doing that as of the last year and a half. So efforts are, underway, through for developing this project, workforce investment and, job opportunities for kids at the middle school level. We just need to find a way to continue that and expand it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have three folks that are interested in giving us an update and talking about children of incarcerated parents. We have Mary Clark, Marge Reinhardt, and Tara Brandenburg. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you, ladies. So the drill, your name, your address, and tell us what you're here for this evening. Thank
Okay.
you.
I'm Mary Clark, and I am
And
the,
you'll need to move the microphone closer and speak like directly into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
now, can you hear me?
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
I'm Mary Clark, and I live at 525 Southeast Marion in Portland. I co-chair the Children of Incarcerated Parents Group, and we're here to provide an update. So I'm going to let Marge and Tara give that to you, and if I can answer some questions, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, Mary.
My name's Marge Reinhardt. I live at 115 Barker Road in Oregon City. And again, we're here to talk with you about behalf of Children of Incarcerated Parents. Thank you for your time, commissioners and committee members. I think brevity may not be my strong suit, so I'm going to abbreviate as well as I can here because we want to make sure that we leave plenty of time to hear from Tara as well. First of all, I wanted to thank you all. We were here last year. You were able to help us maintain, sustain the program funding that we had. And also kind of to publicly acknowledge the other county departments who have contributed to our funding. We have a blended funding stream, behavioral health, can I do this right? Children, families, and community connections. And the juvenile department provide a little over half of our funding, and then you were able to help us to sustain the funding that we have. We have a pack of material for you, so I'm not going to talk tonight about our sort of an overview of our services. But want to just point out a couple of things and then talk with you a little bit more about what your money from last year and again our ask for this year would provide for us. There are 70,000 children in Oregon who are impacted by the incarceration of a parent. The statistics show that, and I think Joe O'Leary mentioned it in talking about the juvenile department, these children experience a great deal of trauma and can easily fall into the juvenile or adult correction system without interventions. And what we have found in Clackamas County, and in fact, we proudly say that we, thank you again, Commissioner Schrader, as always, we have the most comprehensive, robust program in the state in terms of meeting the needs of this hidden, somewhat hidden population. The other piece of data that I would just share with you is recidivism is impacted by largely by three main items. Access to children, so that parents, when they are released from the correctional system, can begin to rebond with their children and remake those connections. Housing and employment, and we've heard about housing and employment here as well. The program that I want to focus on tonight, Parenting Inside Out, is really developed in order to provide those wraparound services and meet those needs. It is a parenting program. It's a very comprehensive cognitive change and evidence-based program. It's intensive. It's a lot of hard work, as Tara will share with you. But what we've done in the county is really wrap that program with other services for families. So we have coaching and supports for children. We have childcare that we provide during that. And that also gives us an opportunity for the children to interact and with a professional there to give tips or whatever in terms of how that works. And so we really are trying to provide those wraparound services to the largest extent that we can. Your $90,000 last year was able to sustain Parenting Inside Out at the levels that we had wanted. Now, we're always wanting to grow programs. We know that this is not a budget cycle where growing a program or perhaps even sustaining a program is a likely outcome for us. And so after talking with some of you, what I will describe as what we had with that money and what we could retain, and then what we could do with reduced amounts of money as well. The budget that Northwest Family Services, who I acknowledged everybody else in the universe except our primary service provider, Northwest Family Services has put together, based on the funding that we have from at this point, a budget that includes 3 Parenting Inside Out courses, and they're extensive and long. But there are just 3 of them included in this upcoming budget. This past year, we had 6. So that would be a fairly significant cut, which would result in waiting lists, possibly, utilizing services that maybe weren't as comprehensive or complex as what we're doing here, or even finding those services because there really aren't a lot offered in the county at this point. So we would, ideally, we would love to sustain the comprehensive program that we have and meet at least the needs that we've been meeting thus far. Knowing that budgets are tight and that there are a lot of demands on you all at this point, we also wanted to let you know that as we looked at the budget and kind of how that would put together, if we were able to get a portion of that, like a 50,000 or so, we would try to operate 4 or 5, probably 5 Parenting Inside Out courses. So that would give us a bit more than what we currently have in the budget. And we're frankly quite concerned because we do have some significant issues here in this county. We think that, again, it's the it's as I think the workforce folks have talked about, and juvenile, and not everybody has said, we ought to be trying to address these problems early on. The earlier we can do it in the most comprehensive way, the best. So we appreciate your ongoing support. We thank you again for helping us out in this past year. And I don't know if I noticed that Commissioner Bernard had a question. Is that a question you'd like
go ahead,
directed
and
to
then
me, or
I'll-
would you rather?
Let's hear from.
After she's
Would you like to hear from our other? Okay.
Yeah, let's hear from Tara.
So Tara Brandenburg.
Thanks for being here.
My name is Tara Brandenburg. My address is 3705 Fairview Way in Westland, Oregon, 97068.
Can you pull the microphone closer to you,
Certainly.
Tara?
Do you need
Thank
me to repeat that?
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
little better. Thank you.
All right. Good evening.
Sensitive mics.
Right. My name is Tara Brandenburg, and I participated in the Parenting Inside Out program offered by Northwest Family Services in the winter of 2017. I was raised as a child in a dysfunctional family and developed into a fully dysfunctional adult. Before PIO, Parenting Inside Out, I had few to no functional coping skills, which is why I believe I found myself in the position that I was in. By the time I got to the program, I had a felony criminal record as the result of a DUI, had lost my job, my driving privileges, and was the single parent of 2 infant boys who I had only supervised custody over. At the time I came into the program in January 2017, it was 1 year past my arrest. I had been sober for a year and was just beginning my 24-month supervised probation. One of the many conditions of my probation was that I complete this program, Parenting Inside Out, which without question has changed me as a whole person, not only in my parenting, but in all parts of my life. This program is critical and invaluable. The program is designed to educate and empower parents by learning about, discussing, and working through all stages of childhood development and the challenges therein. Not only do we have the opportunity to learn about our children and their developmental needs, but we have the opportunity to learn about ourselves, our needs, and responsibilities. This program brought me into the realm of effective communication, emotional regulation, listening skills, problem-solving skills, building family identity, discipline theories, and troubleshooting behaviors. I found that these skills are absolutely necessary to effect positive change in ourselves in order to break the cycles that hinder our own growth and healing. In my experience, families suffer in cycles of abuse and neglect, and we as parents cannot do better if we don't know better. And only when we address these root causes can we better focus on finding the solutions. What I found in my classmates was that we were all alike, wanting to do and be better but unsure how. Parenting Inside Out was a guide through self-reflection and into solution. We worked together as a group on communication, compassion, development, and empowerment in all parts of our lives. We were encouraged to advocate for our needs and those of our families, to seek assistance where it was offered, and shown how to find the services available to us through using local organizations for support. This is a vital component to becoming well-rounded and competent parents and individuals. These are tools that we can use and actions we can encourage in everyone we come into contact with, whether it be our children, our parents, our coworkers, or even our own clients, to better their situations and continue to move forward and upward in their own lives. For me, one of the results of having wholly participated in this incredible program is that I have gone on to live a life I could not have imagined for myself. I've used resources for food, clothing, transportation, housing, education, and counseling. I've not met a moment so far where our needs haven't been met. Not only do I have custody of my 2 young children, but we are thriving. I use this program in my life on a daily basis. I can communicate, assist, and reach out for help when needed. My children are flourishing with the support and have had all of their needs met. I learned how to advocate for myself and seek solutions through this program, and my PIO coach, Samantha Furlow, who's sitting back here behind us, believed in me and was able to get funding through Northwest Family Services for certification for me to become a peer support specialist. This has led to my current employment at Hazelden Betty Ford, where I am an addiction technician. I'm able to use these skills and techniques I learned in this program to help other parents get better, to find the help they need and be self-sufficient. Despite having hardships, I've been able to find my way utilizing these skills. It is much bigger than the name suggests. The leadership I received through this program and through Northwest Family Services has changed my life and produced the woman you see before you tonight as a productive and responsible member of society, a capable, competent, and compassionate parent. I sit before you today asking you to continue to fund this program, Parenting Inside Out. It is a major force in restoring parents who are justice and DHS involved, bringing them out of lifelong cycles that stunt their own growth and the growth and prosperity of generations to follow. Were it not for the funding available when I participated in this program, I would not have been able to afford it. Many people who are remanded to this program are in positions where their finances are in ruins. The staff are committed to changing the course of the lives of those who participate and therefore potentially leading them to a life where they are no longer a financial liability, but rather a valuable force in our society. Please continue to fund this program and assist those who are seeking help and inevitably serving the generations that follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Bernard.
So I have a proposal. Years ago, we started a small grants program, and we've been trying to build it. And I offered to reduce it by $50,000. I think the Budget Committee ought to consider reducing it by $50,000 and giving that $50,000 to this group, because you asked for a reasonable amount that we could probably get. So I would like that to be put on the parking lot and to be considered to reduce small grants to $250,000 and $50,000 to go to this program. From the $300,000, which is budgeted, right?
Yeah, it would be
Didn't we budget $300,000?
1920, Haley.
Yeah.
Yes, $300,000 for the small grants program is still in the budget, as it has been
So
last
we
year.
could reduce that by $50,000, give them $50,000, and leave the small grant at $250,000. So that's my proposal.
Yeah, so when he mentions that that's a proposal, just FYI for you. So what we're doing all this week and the first part of next week, we've been meeting with department heads, listening to the discussion about each one of their budgets and how all that comes together and what we can do in the future and how we can manage to have a balanced budget, every year. So at some point in time next week, Tuesday or Wednesday, we're hoping Tuesday, we'll come to final deliberations about the budget and whether to add things in, take things out, to move things around, to make amounts different, whatever. So it will be next week sometime when decisions are made about this coming year's budget. Just want to give you that as an FYI for you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schrader.
Well, I want to thank all of you for coming, and again, another reason why I guess I've been here way too long some days. I'd like to stay, but that's a whole nother discussion. But how this program started was Debbie Marston, who has since passed away, and Claudia Black, I think that, who basically took me to Coffee Creek. And it was Debbie, I remember, that was adamant. And of course, at the time, this was about, 2005? 4 or 5, yeah.
1925.
Yeah, 1920, I know, not that long ago. But the story does that nobody ever said no to Debbie. So Rod Cook went out of his way when I talked to him to at least help get this started under his. And so I really appreciate, Chair, your suggestion that we look at this, because this is kind of a legacy program in memory of someone who really cared about providing services to the people in our county. And you are it's a wonderful story you have. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would also like to mention to you, I don't know if you are familiar with, I know it wouldn't be a grant that would fill your need, but the Clackamas County Peace Officers Benevolent Foundation, we have a line item to assist the Children of Incarcerated Parents organization. And you can fill out a grant application online, or you can talk about what a need, some kind of specific need you have, and fill out the application online and that. So it's Clackamas County Peace Officers Benevolent Foundation, just
Don't you
use
have
all
a
those
fundraiser
initials.
coming up?
Pardon me?
Don't you have a
Oh, yeah, we have a
fundraiser
golf
coming up?
tournament coming up out at Stone Creek that will totally benefit Shop with a Cop, of which many of the children of incarcerated parents are the children who benefit from the $100 gift card that day that we're able to give to everybody. So 160 kids, so we're raising $16,000 for that. But meanwhile, we do have other monies, and not sure, like I said, it wouldn't be, any $50,000 or $90,000, but I figure every little bit helps,
And as a
right?
matter of fact,
was
when
mine.
Debbie passed away, her memorial funds all came to children of incarcerated parents, and it's held in that benevolent fund, so.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you
And
for
we
being.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because we are not direct service providers, I think Rose
Yeah.
and her staff they are excellent
Conveners.
conveners. Yes,
There you go.
So-
Great. Well, I want to thank you all for being here tonight, and Tara, you especially, to be able to tell your story. You're doing better than me. When I tell my stories, I get all teary-eyed and, have to stop. But so thank you for that. It was great
you.
hearing from you.
It's
Thank
an
you.
honor. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Glenn. Glenn wants to talk to us about seniors, so come on up, Glenn. And I apologize that I can't quite read your last name, sir, so.
You wouldn't be able to pronounce it anyway.
Okay, thank you. That works for me.
Right.
I'll just get Glenn K.
There you go. Thank you. Madam Chair, Chairman Bernard, Commissioners, and Budget Committee members, I'm Glenn Kierson. I live at 15144 South Graves Road in Malino. And there should be I guess it looks like there's a handout coming around right now. There's a one-page graph with some data on it. But I'll tell you what it says in a few words.
I think so.
I currently serve on the Clackamas County Aging Services Advisory Committee. I serve on the Blueprint for a Healthy Clackamas County Committee, TriMet Special Transportation Funding Advisory Council, and Metro's Transportation Policy Alternatives Council. So I continue to advocate for seniors. I think that they're important, obviously. But I would guess that most of the people in this room have discovered the magical fountain of youth. But, unfortunately, most of the people in the county haven't found it yet. They haven't been able to take a drink of that water. And so they continue getting older.
Only Ken has found it.
Oh, you,
That's so true.
Say what?
what the graph would tell you, or show you, that the number of citizens in Clackamas County that are 65 years or older increased from 11% in 2000 to 21% in 2025. Almost a doubling of people over 65. And that's a staggering number. And the fastest growing demographic are people over 85. And some of us are getting closer to that number than we would really like to be, but it's a fact. These people are going to need more services and different services than what we've been providing to this time. So as an aid in preparing for these people, I would really urge you to support the blueprint for a healthy Clackamas County effort being undertaken by the Public Health Department. I think, from my perspective, it's trying to address all the elements of a healthy life, which includes adequate housing, transportation to services, adequate healthy food, medical care, and an area that we frequently forget, but the opportunity for socialization. That is such a critical issue. I still remember, I lived out in the country, and you still see people standing by the mailbox waiting for the mail person to come by because there's somebody to talk to for that day. And that's kind of scary, you know? So we need to, we need to be thinking about those people. And so that's all, we've been providing these services in silos, and that hasn't been really satisfactory, and it's not very efficient. So I think we need a coordinated service delivery system. That includes the public, the nonprofit, the private people, and I think that the public health effort is one way for us to address that issue. So I would just encourage you to encourage all the department heads, especially in H3S, to work together for people, especially for seniors, and that then rolls down to every other age group too. Thank you.
So you called it the blueprint for what?
Blueprint for a healthy Clackamas County.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. And I do believe that our department heads work with AARP, and their goals right now are for a completely livable community for
Yes,
all
that's true.
ages.
Yes.
And so there are a lot of factors in that are things that Clackamas County is already doing.
I know
And
all about that.
AARP has mentioned that and is appreciative
Yeah,
of those
I'm well aware of
things.
that. I work on the age-friendly community,
Oh, yeah, with Bandala.
Bandana, and so, yeah, I'm well aware of that.
Good. All right.
But
so
we need to be thinking about those issues and bringing people together.
So Ms. Lee, then Commissioner Humbertson, then Commissioner Sabas.
Well, thank you for your report. I noticed that you mentioned STAR in Sandy. Our senior program is one of our key programs in the community. And today I have a birthday and I'm joining your statistics.
You have a birthday today?
Yeah, happy birthday.
She has a birthday today? Isn't that what she said?
That's what she said.
She said she had a birthday
Yeah.
today?
Happy birthday.
And she didn't even tell us. We could have had cake and ice cream.
Happy birthday
have ice
to you.
Happy birthday, dear Jan. Happy birthday to you. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Many more.
And many more.
Woo-hoo. Yeah, cool. See the things you find out at meetings. Commissioner.
Just wanted to point out that the numbers that you give us today are reflected in the reports we got from Health, Housing, and Human Services today. And an additional piece of that we need to be aware of is that the number of people who can volunteer to help, and as part of just volunteer agencies, is going down. And so people who do, for instance, Meals on Wheels, that some of us have participated in occasionally, there's less and less people willing or able to drive and help in that. So
Yeah, I might
your
just
point's well
comment,
taken.
I would just comment, I was at the adult center in Lake Oswego yesterday. Our group visits all the adult centers throughout the county every year. And they're having trouble because unfortunately, baby boomers do not consider themselves as getting old. And so.
Of course not.
Obviously. And so they
Feel
don't,
it.
they
My
don't,
generation does.
they don't even go to the adult centers. There are no more senior centers, trust me. You can't have a senior center and expect anyone to come. Now they're adult centers or community centers because baby boomers are not going to senior centers. Trust me.
That's a river in Egypt, I thought.
Commissioner Samas.
Well, you know, Ken keeps us young. I just want to say thank you for your advocacy. You've been almost everywhere. You're ubiquitous around transportation committees, senior committees, and so forth. So, and you and I have some friends in common. So I just want to just say thank you for your continued hard work and advocacy for seniors. It's just an important need, and transportation is such a big deal. And we've tried to talk about local jitneys. I know that Commissioner Bernard last night was at Metro fighting for some T2020 money. We're trying to advocate. You know that we're a transit desert. We don't have anything out over here.
I'm well aware of that.
And you've participated in some Metro committees as well over the years, and it's just it's hard to get our fair share out here in Clackamas County.
Well, that's why, and this graph was produced by one of the Clackamas County staff, specifically for me, because she started getting the numbers together, and I wanted something really concise that told the story. And now this is circulating. This has gone to Metro, so I see it at Metro meetings now, and I see it at TriMet meetings. So this information is getting out, and we just have to keep after it, because unfortunately, most of us have not found that fountain of youth yet, and so we're going to need transportation, especially when I live out in Malino. If I can't drive, and some of you probably don't want me on the roads when I get to be.
Yeah, let me know, okay?
Uber drivers out there probably.
So anyway, yeah, thank you.
And I just want to just mention, you also represent a lot of senior citizens with disabilities, and access to transportation is even more challenging for those with disabilities.
is.
So.
It really is, yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you coming in. Thank you. Next up to the podium is William Gifford. William wants to talk to us tonight about the budget. Probably something specific in the budget, but he didn't say that. Hi, William.
He doesn't bring a check for $12 million, he said.
That's what I thought I heard, yeah.
I don't
Right
have
now,
a
I'd be
problem at all
happy with
writing a check for $12 million.
5.2.
For half of it. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners and staff for this opportunity. My name is William Gifford, and I live in Oregon City. I want to thank particularly our not-so-new anymore county administrator for getting this budget together during these challenging times. I know that this has been a real balancing act. In the budget presentation that was available online, pretty in-depth document, thank you again for that, there was one mention about some programs that were state mandated, but no funds were available. And that's always an awkward situation when you have unfunded mandates. But there's sort of a parallel situation right now that the BCC, the Board of County Commissioners, mandated or approved 2 capital construction projects for the Water Environment Services. And those projects, which are to be done, require the addition of 2 engineering positions. With a hiring freeze, that makes it a bit complicated. And I understand that there's an exception process to go through, but I want to make sure that this budget committee is aware that we need to fund those positions for those engineers to get those capital projects done, if the BCC wants those projects done. That's all I want to say.
Gary, I would assume the hiring freeze would be general fund related.
So for now, no, it would be any department, because even non-general fund costs impact the general fund. But there will be an exception process. I will not stop the business of county government. So departments will just demonstrate to me the absolute essential need, in this case, for a capital construction project, and of course I will approve that. It's just, I'm asking departments to think carefully. If possible, could they keep that position vacant for a little bit of time instead of filling it right away. But there will definitely be an exception process. We will not stop the business of county.
And to be fair, I understand that there are, even though West does not draw on the general fund for its operations, there are personnel costs that the county does need to absorb, administrative costs for personnel. So I realize that there is an attachment there, but I'm hoping that will be carefully considered.
And that would be something that would come out of Wes's budget, and that's a budget that's heard on Monday, correct? At 1:30 in the afternoon.
Very good. Oh, Madam Chairman.
I'll be there.
Much knowledge I have.
Chair for that. She won't be here, but.
I'll be in the audience.
Time's up.
Okay. Thanks, William. And we now have the opportunity to hear from both Trell Anderson and Angela Mullins about Northwest Housing Alternatives.
I just want to mention that we had an opportunity to tour their facility, their new offices, the affordable units, as well as the shelter. And I was impressed not only by the structures themselves. The construction company, I've heard, has done an excellent job communicating with neighbors and keeping them informed when there would be loud noise or dump trucks, and also not work on Saturdays and not start work early. And also the shelter and the entire facility will process its own water. It has solar. It's very impressive. And just a few years ago when this project was brought up, the city council wasn't in support of it. And I want to compliment Wilda and the mayor for making this possible. Of course, you probably ended up with a better project. And the other thing is the cost per unit is the best I've heard. And so I think you guys did a really good job in designing a project that is not cost prohibitive.
True. Well, and may I add to that very quickly that I also had the opportunity to tour with the members of Milwaukee City Council and our city manager. And I was so impressed, I begged Trell to let me move in, but he said I didn't qualify. You know, I've never lived in a brand new place, and they are so fantastic. I mean, they're good, solid, like homes you'd love to live in. So thank you for that, Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well,
Before
we'll
they
do
get
all your work.
started.
We'll do all your work for you.
Thank you.
By just complimenting this. I just also wanted to mention, Jim and I toured that facility, and indeed was very impressive. Really impressed with number one, the cost, and the construction quality was just impressive. But I also wanted to just bring attention to the 24-unit Pleasant Avenue Veterans Facility that is going to be opening up in October. And I was able to speak with some of our folks over at Do Good, and they're apparently they got the contract to manage that, as I understand.
Wow.
So I think that was huge because they were a veteran-operated, a veteran-owned company. So that's just a great add-on or benefit for the veteran shelter to get those folks into permanent, high-quality housing. So that's just a win-win. So very grateful that you're all in existence and doing what you all do.
Wow. Well, thank you all very, very
Anything else
much.
to
Yeah. Makes it hard to come up here
Yes,
and
we did
be
his
an
talking
advocate.
point. Yeah.
You know, both of those projects we're very proud of, and I just need to say that also both of those projects were due to the hard work and vision of Martha McLennan, the previous executive director, and Stephen McMurtry, who is now part of the Clackamas County Housing Authority staff.
Yeah.
So all the credit is to them as well as the staff and the funders, and the county is part of funding both of those projects, and we really appreciate the partnerships and the ongoing partnerships, both in housing development and then also in our homeless service programs. That's where I'll let Angela start our testimony.
Hello, my name is Angela Mullins. I am the Director of Homeless Intervention Services for Northwest Housing Alternatives. I live in Oregon City and work in Milwaukee. Our address is 2316 Southeast Willard, Milwaukee, 97222. when I left work today, when I left the office, I got a call from a caseworker from DHS that described to me this woman who was living in a shed. And apparently it's her mother, it's on a property where her mother and her grandfather live, but she's not able to live in the house because she has an abuse history with her grandfather. There is no heat and no water, and this woman is about to give birth.
Oh. Not fun.
Another story, I mean, so moving in this temporary location, we're right out front in Milwaukee, on McLaughlin. And usually before, when we're across the street from the hills, from the high school, we're kind of, hidden away. But being right there and having housing in our title, we've got people coming in for, the need is great. We're getting anywhere between 20 and 30 phone calls for help. And that can be either from prevention services or from homelessness. And so getting a phone call is one thing, but actually having people walk in your door that have walked from the, Milwaukee Inn down the street, and it's 30 degrees outside, 3 children, mom, and a 4th in a stroller, saying, I have a Section 8 voucher, but today was my last day in the Milwaukee Inn. I have no more money. I have nowhere to go. And I don't have an Annie Ross house to welcome them. And to be able to say, come on in, I want you to talk to my case manager. I'm going to take the kids, and, taking the children's hands and how cold they were, warming up a TV dinner in the microwave and sitting with them while mom was able to sit with our case manager to try to figure out what the next steps were. Again, that thought of this last year and a half and not having the Annie Ross house to welcome them. And so here we are on this wonderful opportunity to open up the Annie Ross house in a couple of months, but yet hearing that there's going to be budget cuts to the operations of that facility. And yet we've expanded it by 60%. So something's not quite adding up. But it isn't just the services of operating that facility that we can't wait to get into and to start doing that and welcome the families into, but it's also providing the budget and the money to support the case managers to follow them not only in the shelter and figure out what it's going to take to get them into their own home, but to follow them in the community to try to stabilize them so that they don't lose that home before they even get there. And I am just here to advocate for money to go towards those services today. The last time the homeless school liaisons were able to report the homeless children in pre-K, it was 1,600 children. That is pre-kindergarten, Head Start, and K through 12 in Clackamas County. The preliminary, what I'm hearing from the point in time count that they haven't yet released that report is that there has not been a drop in homelessness in Clackamas County. And so again, we have got this amazing opportunity before us. We are all so excited. Charles kind of lucky to be, dropped in his lap, that he gets this amazing, staff, of course, and facility. And at the same time, I thank you for the support that you have given us over the years to bring us to this point. And I look forward to working with you all as we continue and to take that next step together. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have you heard that there was going to be budget cuts of county support to your program?
I have.
Have you?
Yeah.
We're not aware of it. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing it to our attention. We'll definitely
Yeah.
put it on our parking
Yeah,
lot
we'll
list here
make
and
sure
look
we
into
find
it.
the answer to that.
Yeah, in years past, the county funds would be about 27% of the budget. And so to hear that was going to be, we appreciate it. It's not a lot of money, but we appreciate it. And here's going to be cuts to that. And we have this expansion of services, and we're wanting to serve more folks. We can do better than that. So I ask for your support in making that happen.
It seems like
For
there would be
consideration.
metro money opportunity.
I understand.
Middle of next week or Tuesday of next week.
Yeah, so for the benefit of our colleagues and folks up here, could you, Trell, or you tell us about where the money is derived to build the units and what the whole project is in Milwaukee, for example? You have the Annie Ross house, plus you also have the surrounding facilities. So if you could expand on that how many units altogether is being built?
So there's 28 affordable housing units on the property. They're family-sized. They're tax credit funded, so we blend federal programs with some of the home funds that's allocated to you to build those units. So that's in partnership with your community development department. The Annie Ross House, was built in partnership with the Community Development Block Grant Funds. That also comes through your Community Development Department. And about almost $2 million in private fundraising that, again, Martha and Stephen took on over the course of a 18-month period. The office building is privately funded. It's the first time the organization will carry a mortgage. As was noted, it's, built very specifically to accommodate some growth as well as produce net zero in terms of its energy usage. The energy will even generate enough off of the solar panels to provide electricity for the Annie Ross shelter. We've got that kind of capacity.
But the cuts are, you're talking about county support of staffing.
Operating support money for the Annie Ross shelter.
And rapid rehousing.
So in the past,
To help
we've
them get
received
into
about $140,000 a year in operating support for the shelter from different funding sources that come out of,
Out of the
I believe,
through
the
the
Community
county.
Action
Out of
Agency.
H3S.
Yep.
Yeah.
What we have heard is that, per course, the county needs to RFP those funds periodically, for those services. Understood. We're certainly up for competition and, in fact, thrive in that environment. But what we heard is that only $120,000 are going to be in the request for proposals. That's for your entire shelter system across the county, where in the past, we've received $140,000. So we're anticipating, of course, we wouldn't expect to win that whole $120,000 RFP. That's got to go to some of your other shelters as well. So therefore, we're anticipating some kind of cut in the operating subsidy, your support of the operations for the Annie Ross House.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah, well, between the two facilities, you're bringing over 50 units online here within less than 8 months or 9 months. So that's a great asset to us. We'll look into it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Angela's so good at telling the real stories that our staff encounter, and they're so heartfelt and meaningful. I want to flip that for a minute and go to the 1,000-foot level. So I was really excited in Mr. Schmidt's budget message to read about, you've captured, maybe for the first time that I've seen it, the issue we have between wages and the cost of housing in Clackamas County. I also noted that of the 8 previous presentations, 5 of them referenced the need for housing in some form or fashion. Even in the code compliance, Commissioner, you talked about homelessness. We're truly in a housing crisis, and that truly has hit Clackamas County. The H3S budget notes in emerging issues talk about an aging population. We heard tonight there's a housing issue there. Housing concerns in terms of stability is noted for us. We connect that to mental health issues. What we see a lot of in the properties that we manage when somebody is in some type of crisis or receiving some type of eviction notice, many times it's about mental health. We have a hard time connecting that person or a caseworker with mental health services to stabilize their housing. A note, though, that, and forgive me if I've got this number wrong, the slides were great. I'm focused on the general fund. That's what you have discretion over. And you've got a number of competing demands. You're filling holes where federal funds are withdrawing, where the state is reducing funds. You've got some very tough choices to make in your allocation of general fund across all your departments. But I believe I read that it's a $137 million general fund budget. The slide presentation from H3S suggests that there is $2 million allocated to housing support. That's where the funding is for case management, for rapid rehousing. That's where I believe the shelter operations funding is. $2 million of $137,000 is 1.4%. In the middle of a housing crisis, you're dedicating 1.45% of your general funds to housing. I was hoping we could do better.
I just want to note that I've known this gentleman for a while. When I was mayor, he was working on Hillside Manor project. And I was right in between being mayor and a county commissioner. So it was an interesting position to be in. But, we still haven't talked about our priorities. And in our priorities is reduce homelessness, mixed-use housing, jobs, housing balance. I mean, there's a lot of housing in here. So, you know, when we get down to, again, I have no intention of blowing up the budget, but we may have some influence on various departments that get money from, for example, Metro. Do you have the ability, I think that money from Metro goes specifically to counties, right? The Metro housing dollars?
That's right.
Yeah, so you couldn't,
Capital.
you couldn't apply for a
yeah.
grant. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And again, we
Thank you.
sincerely appreciate the ongoing partnership.
It's good to see you guys. Thank you so much. That is all of the public testimony that we have this evening. At least it's all of the cards that I have. So if there's no one else that would like to speak, we can adjourn the public participation,
My fellow
close.
citizen members, there is somebody.
From MacG Clackamas Housing Team regarding the SOS shelters.
No,
Can I-
come on down.
I'm a last minute fill-in. Mary Zelhari was going to be the speaker today, but she couldn't be here and asked me to fill in.
Okay, so before you leave this evening, will you fill out one of these little cards
I
that's
wasn't
over
aware I
there on the
should've
table? That way we'll have record of it.
So my name is Craig Johnson. My address is 1728 Southeast 10th Place in Canby. I'm part of the Metropolitan Alliance for Common Good Clackamas Housing Team. And a lot of the work we have been doing in Clackamas County has been around the work of safe overnight shelters. We have been advocating for the last 2 years for alternative methods of emergency housing specifically. We understand housing is an upstream issue. We know all of the work and the way your budget has been working with affordable housing, creating more of it in all kinds of ways and places. And my church has hosted one of the 3 temporary church-supported shelters for Clackamas County for 27 years. But as we've heard about the issue of housing and its pervasiveness for behavioral health, for community health, it's part of the community health assessment for Clackamas County. One of the areas we've been focusing on is the people who are not even on the housing continuum yet. Those people who, especially who are unsheltered, who are maybe having day contact or part of the Shelter Our Neighbor organizations with Northwest Housing Alternatives. We're looking to find ways in which, especially communities of faith, can help provide temporary shelters. We're also trying to advocate and support the people that do the emergency shelters when it's under 30 degrees. As you put together your budget, we want to advocate for all those things. First of all, commending the county for their work for developing the veterans housing as a model of using the influence of the county to allow for some code variances, to allow for ways in which unsheltered folks, especially veterans, can be connected to services. The safe overnight shelter process that we've applied for a variance, a zoning variance for with a King of Kings Lutheran Church in unincorporated Milwaukee is one of the experiments that we're trying to have happen. Before you can be connected to coordinated housing access, often there's a lot of people who are just simply living in their cars or living in unsheltered sheds, as we heard about the woman getting ready to give birth. I've had contacts from people who have been evicted, families with newborns living in RVs in unincorporated Canby. So one of the things that's difficult is often these people who are in their vehicles don't have a place to even connect to services. They need a place to catch their breath is the language we're using. So what we're encouraging is more funding specifically for emergency shelters where people might actually have an opportunity to connect to services, and continued support from the county, finding some various and creative models, especially for faith communities or nonprofits who have a wonderful asset. It's called a parking lot. And a place to have 1, 2, or 3 vehicles potentially overnight, a place where they can catch their breath, be safe, and potentially also have a contact place where they can make connections to sustainability case managers, medical case managers. We've been partnering with Providence, their Better Outcome Through Bridges. They have they have a definite investment in trying to reduce recidivism in the emergency rooms. So we're basically just looking for county support, financial and so forth, to that other end of the housing continuum. As you're doing the upstream work, creating more affordable housing, trying to create all of those things, there are people who can't wait, I guess, who need at least a place to be and a place to catch their breath as they wait for the priorities of creating more affordable housing to happen in Clackamas County. Being outside of the metro area in Canby, and my church is in North Marion County, I also have a special place in my heart for those places outside of the metro area where there is just simply a lack of services, as we heard, a lack of transportation, a lack of senior connections, to make sure in whatever plans you do around your affordable housing, keep in mind the need for those places I call the parts of the lawn that don't get watered, that maybe are a little outside of transportation headways or outside of concentrated areas of population. One of the things I'm really proud of Clackamas County having done is the creation with your community health assessment in 2017 of creating health equity zones based on school district catchment areas. I think as you've looked at this holistically and as housing touches every department in Clackamas County, remember to make all of those connections, to integrate those services and to make holistic plans. Because if there's more housing, everyone's going to be healthier. If there's more housing, kids are going to receive a better education. If there's more housing and safe places to be, the incidence of domestic violence will reduce. I'm really proud of the fact that Clackamas County, my county, that your departments talk to each other. And I think that has been a wonderful education for me, and a lot of counties in the state of Oregon, as I understand, don't have that. But I guess in the words of from the book of Acts, remember the poor, especially remember those who are unsheltered, those who need a place just sometimes to park a vehicle while they wait to get connected to access to those places. And remember in the cold weather, the shelters, any way you can support the funding or creation or support of more of those, and especially maybe in the more rural parts of the county, keep those in mind as you create a budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And she has a card for you to fill out, so we'll capture your information.
One thing I wanted to mention was that we hear that all the shelters struggle to get volunteers.
And that is true.
And so some folks have to work a lot because they can't get the volunteers to, take shift changes. So
That is, but ironically, I was talking to somebody who developed recently developed a shelter in Silverton, for example. One of the catch-22 situations is once you create a shelter, especially in a rural area, your point in time count goes up because rural communities are convinced that there aren't any homeless people in their community. But if you open a warming shelter, you're going to find those people who weren't visible do exist too. But I agree, and that has been a struggle, is to find more of those.
Tuesday.
So the citizens should probably take their stuff because it'll be different.
Yes, I was going to suggest that. And also, I'm going to give the cards and my notes to staff so that they can capture the information that we heard this evening, so that on Tuesday, as we deliberate, we'll have that information also. Does that sound fair? I'm going to adjourn the public testimony meeting.